Steve. But thank you for that. So I do want to just welcome you all and thank you for joining us tonight for this really historic moment where we're going to be sharing some beautiful artwork, a collection that was provided to us from the Cheech Museum. And it's the Chicano Colección, Colección Chicana. And so I know that for me it's a really special moment to open up the county to allow for us to celebrate what is Chicano art and the Chicano experience and movement. And that's something that the county hasn't done ever with art. And I think art speaks to us in a much different way than other forms of expression. So it's a special, special moment. I think it inspires all of us, but I do want to also just give a shout out to the people that Pam was talking about that making this happen. So I want to thank her. So thank you, Pam, and your team, James Denver, Kristen Kwan, the historic operations team that's on site, Katie McKay, Dennis Schaefer, and Melanie Goss. So thank you all for our District 2 office staff that are here, my Chief of Staff, Yossi all of you who are here. And I know we have some really, really, just dear friends, but all of you are special to the county and special to us. So I do want to recognize, some of our elected officials that are also here and those that represent us in education, because this is that intersection, I think, between politics, education, and just appreciating important pieces of artwork. So I do want to recognize our city council members. We're in the city of Santa Ana, so let's recognize our council members from Santa Ana. Jesse Lopez, John our neighbor city and part of my district that I represent, I saw Becky Gomez here from the city of From the Metro San Diego Community College District, we have David Crockett and Zeke Hernandez. Thank you both. From Anaheim Unified School District, Jessica Guerrero and Anne Marie Randall Greco. And from Tustin Unified, my amiga in the movement, Allison Louise Namicola. Thank you. And the president of the Santa Ana Unified School District, the product where many of us are from, Carolyn Torres. And we do have from the Orange Unified School District, we have Chris Erickson. Thank you, Chris. And Stephen Glass, who is with us as well. And, these trustees will tell you they can't do anything without the support and leadership and help from their superintendents. So we have some really powerful superintendents here. Mike Matsuda from Anaheim Union. Ernesto Gonzalez from Orange Unified School District. And Jesse Chahadia from Anaheim Elementary. And our good friend from the college in Orange that we know is an icon there, doing a lot of good work to recruit Latino students to their campus from Chapman University, President Strickland. Thank you, President Strickland. We're going to be talking about, Chicano art, Chicano movement. Just an hour ago, the city of Santa Ana appointed a permanent city manager who is Chicano as well. So let's congratulate Ana. do want to just thank you all for joining us here tonight. I am the third Latino to serve on the County Board of Supervisors here in Orange. And so it is a historic seat that I hold, and I do it with a lot of humility, but I do it because it's an important legacy that we have here in the County of Orange. Not all of it has been positive, and we know those of us who've been here, my family's been here since 1965. Artwork is the best way to tell that story. It does it in a way that it moves your soul. It lets you know where struggle has been, where successes have happened. But I think that artists have this unique ability to be able to make their points really effective. And sometimes words, sometimes the written word, the spoken word doesn't do that, but an image will. It's funny because I was in Europe just a few weeks ago, and I went to go visit some artwork at the Louvre and some other museums. And you could be in any other country and you see that there are struggles everywhere. And the Chicano struggle is really unique to the Southwest. It is technically, the struggle of the Mexican American here. And myself, I was born in La Paz, Bolivia, so technically I'm not a Chicano. But I think I'm honoring now. But my career, and there was a struggle when I was in college. To be a Chicano, do you have to technically be Mexican American heritage, or can you be a Latino who is just facing discrimination, facing the struggles that a person of color, Latino person of color, is facing? So it was a struggle. It was a question that was never resolved, and I think for good reason.
Love has no borders.
What's that?
Love has no borders.
That's where I landed. But I think that in the end, what we all realize is that the challenges that Latinos and Chicanos have in the Southwest is one that's unique, right? This was once, Mexican land and Mexican territory, and so it's known as Aslan in the indigenous words. And so there was a movement called Meche, and Movimiento Estudiantil Chicano de Aslan, and that was the first group that I ever belonged to in college. And so that's where I found my voice. That's where I learned about history that I didn't learn about in textbooks. So to all you educators, please, continue to teach your students their history and accurate history. We know that we're so inspired by many of the school districts that have introduced ethnic studies, because for young people growing up not understanding their identity, not understanding where they are, it's a real obstacle to being able to succeed. So I had the benefit of going to a campus that did have a Chicano studies minor. And so I was able to learn about a lot of the history that we now are going to be looking at tonight. But I think what it does capture a moment in time when there was a movement that was really effective to make sure that people understood the struggle of the Chicano here in the Southwest. And so, it is great to know that we are surrounded by a very strong artist colony here in Orange County. And I want to shout out all the muralists, all the people who give their lives to art, and that we know it's not something easy. There was a muralist that inspired me when I was in college. His name was Malaquias Montoya from the Bay Area, and we have our own muralist here in Orange County, Emilio Vasquez. And so we have these iconic names that inspire us. So I know that all of you who follow in their footsteps have a big responsibility to make sure that the rest of us understand where we've been and where we're going. But I just want to say thank you for supporting these efforts. And I know that finally, the County of Orange is going to be recognizing that our diversity is changing and that the county is evolving. It's not the county of old, it's the county of the future. And looking at these students from youth and government, some of them are as young as 8th grade, and so seeing their faces reflected in the artwork, for them to see artwork that has them and is something culturally connected to their history, is something that's inspiring and should inspire all of us. So I just want to say, let's continue with this, because it is something that if we're not vigilant, we can forget. So I know that the city is going to be celebrating the Chicano Heritage Festival this weekend. I think it's Saturday or Sunday? It's Sunday. So we want to make sure that we all attend, we support those events. I was very fortunate as mayor in Santa Ana a few years ago when it was inaugurated. Back then, we didn't have a Chicano festival, we didn't recognize it, we didn't proclaim August as Chicano History Month, and now we do, and we take sometimes those things for granted. But they were done with a struggle. They were done introducing things when people really didn't want to hear that. There was a ban on cruising, and we know cruising was a very important art form. If you look at some of those vehicles that are lowriders, it is art, blended with a piece of machinery in a vehicle. But it is a way that the Chicano movement expressed their resistance many times, and we know that resistance was born of many difficult things, and that's why you had movements like the Brown Berets that that had to be that resistance front. So we all know those things are important. We want to thank all of you who've done your part to further the movement through art, through politics, through education. All those things I think are important. I get inspired when I listen to some of the young people because I know my son is here and he is working with our Commissioner Diaz and others. They are students and products of Santa Ana Unified School District. They just got a grant to do voter engagement and information. And those are things that are going to further our cause. And that's why we know we're in good hands and we have every reason to feel optimistic about what the future holds for the Chicano student and the Chicano movement here in Orange County. But somebody who I know, in addition to Councilmember Lopez, served with me on the city council when I was mayor, who really was a valiant voice and a courageous young voice to bring forward many of the initiatives that have to do with the Chicano Heritage Month, the lifting the ban on cruising, and just making sure that we were lifting up the Chicano community here. And he's a product of this community. He's somebody who inspired me when I was mayor to make sure that we don't take our foot off the pedal. And now here at the county, he continues to do the same and remind us how important it is that we stay vigilant over these things. So I just want to thank him for his friendship, but I want to thank him for his voice because he came on as a 27-year-old young man and didn't have experience in government and politics, but that's what we need. We need those voices that come in with passion, with making sure that that we all understand that as a product of this community, they want to do and make changes, improve things. So I want to thank him for his leadership on the city council, in addition to Councilmember Lopez and Vasquez. They are doing incredible things. I'm inspired by all of you, and really all of you that I named that are here, what you do in your respective fields, on school boards, on city councils, as superintendents, leading our students. Thank you for everything that you do, because it's sometimes tireless work. Sometimes it's not well rewarded. It's not well recognized. But moments like this, make us realize that what we do this for is because it's important to all of our teams. So let me introduce Councilmember Jonathan Hernandez, so he can share a few words with us before we cut this ribbon. And I know we want to go into some smart.
What a beautiful day it is to be Chicano. ¿Sí o no?
Yes, sir.
If you can hear my voice, make some noise. Well, today is a monumental day, August 7th, and the county has opened their doors, and Orange County will never be the same. Chicano people have arrived, and I want to thank our supervisor for bringing the Chicano people with him. Let's give them a round of applause. Very special guests in the room here today, and as we talk about Chicano history, we must not romanticize what that means. There are people in government that are actually advancing these narratives, and to that, I want to applaud Santa Ana Unified School District for making ethnic studies a graduate requirement, something that Chicanos marched and fought for and walked out of classrooms. Vicky Castro in the 60s. And Santa Ana was the first city in California to make that a graduation requirement, and furthermore, the first school district to ever declare August as Chicano Heritage Month. So, President it's important that we who are unaware where we come from. We are in Ahachman territory, native land, that up until 1848 belonged to Mexico. Belonged before Mexico was here, this belonged to native people. And the native tongue was erased. And with that colonization came last names like mine. I'm proud of who I am, but I recognize that the communities we lived in have been colonized. So I want to remind people what Orange County looked like for people like us. There was a woman by the name of Modesta Avila who owned land in Centro Capistrano. And this young lady, at the age of 17, was a landowner who was not without her parents. And as the railroad tracks were being built, they built on her land as they do with brown people all the time without permission. And she was valiant. She put a sign in the ground that said $10,000 to build. Well, in 1889, she successfully obstructed development of the railroad for 17 consecutive days. America didn't know what to do with a brown woman standing her ground and saying, this is my land and it's going to cost you to build. So America did what they did with brown people, and they made her the first female prisoner, the first female felon in California, Modesta Avila. In 1889, the Santa Fe Railroad eventually led to her demise, where she was, unfortunately, lost her life in the prison system. But it sets a precedent as to how America, and specifically Orange County, was going to treat Chicano people, Native people, Indigenous people. No matter what boundaries you see us as, we are native to here, and our skin tells that story. As you fast forward to 1892, you see a glimpse of what policing is going to look like for a century to come, right? 1892, a mob of men, including many prominent citizens, lynched a Mexican man, Francisco Torres, hanging him from a telegraph pole on the corner of Sycamore and 4th Street. The last lynching to take place in California took place here in Santa Ana, walking distance from where you're at. Our stories begin with tragedy before we can get to the points of triumph. And as we talk about these tragedies that both brown and men and women of color experience, there are many other significant points in Orange County history we can point to. But through all of the adversity, families in Santa Ana and in Orange County never forgot that we aren't going to let things happen to us. We will go out and happen to things as well. And that came in the form of 1940s. Black and brown working together. A young lawyer who in the 40s is looking to desegregate schools. My name's Thurgood Marshall. Nice to meet you. Right? Something powerful is about to happen. 4 Orange County families came together and they dared this country to see us as human and to accept us in the classroom. The Mendez family, the Thomas Estrada family, William Guzman and Virginia of Santa Ana, the Palomino family in Garden Grove, and Lorenzo Ramirez of Orange, El Modena. These 4 families came together and they dared to desegregate our schools. One of those families, the Guzman family, are still residents of Artisa Pilar, and they live on 2nd Street in Rape. Thanks to the Santa Ana City Council, we are now going to have a ceremonial street topper at that intersection, where this family dared to desegregate Fremont Elementary, and in 1948 they were successful. That set the precedent for us to desegregate schools through the Brown versus Board of Education, but it was brown families and black lawyers working hand in hand to change this country and do something so radical that no one ever dreamt of. And we started here in this county.
In this building.
In this building. Make some noise. And the beautiful part about that history is a Bolivian Chicano from La Paz, Bolivia, becoming the first supervisor to declare August Chicano Heritage Month, brings our people full circle in a room that set a precedent as to why we were able to go to college, why we were able to become school board presidents, and why we continue to increase academic achievement across Orange County. We have a Truman Scholarship in this room, Diego Sarmiento. But amidst all of the tragedy, our people's work behind the scenes, we built across the table. As the civil rights movement was building and black families were leading it, the brown families were taking taking notice, and they were paying attention. And as we were victims of the Zoot Suit riot, Santa Ana had its own, here in front of the Eagles Theater. And amidst the civil rights movement and the Chicano struggles and the walkouts, El Salvador Park was a park where many Mexican families met up and they participated in direct action. Student walkouts began at El Salvador Park. That was a meeting place for many students. The beautiful thing as to what Mexican Americans did in this country is we helped redefine what the media's role was in liberation work and in freedom work. And it was a young Mexican American who came from Texas to Santa Ana. And he was somebody working for Univision before Univision was what it is. And he was using that platform to talk to families in Spanish and educate them about their Mexican children going to Vietnam War and not coming back. Educating them about subpar education and how we were thrown out of the classroom if we were speaking in our native tongue of Spanish. This individual was Ruben Salazar. He called Santa Ana home and missed this time that he was building a voice for our people. And on August 29th, 1970, 20 to 30,000 Chicanos were demonstrating in East LA. We were fighting the disproportionate amount of Mexicans dying in the Vietnam War. We were fighting the disproportionate amount of Chicanos being killed by law enforcement in the 60s, and police historically getting away with that. We were protesting the subpar education and the fights and flights we had to go through. Orange County being a shining example. On that day, tragedy struck us. Police did what they have historically done to communities of color that used their voice to make this country better, to make us more inclusive. Police recognized us as a collective threat, and they showed us what they're willing to do. August 29th of 1970, that was our Selma. That was our march. That was where we showed California how Mexican families can show up when we come together. And on that day, our voice, Ruben Salazar, was tragically murdered by Sheriff Deputy Thomas Wilson, struck and immediately killed by a tear gas projectile inside the Silver Dollar Bar. That was a day of movement died, but a resistance was born. And Santa Ana now has the largest Chicano moratorium in the country, where every single year we come together to commemorate the life of Ruben Salazar. And in celebrating art and in celebrating our stories, we are celebrating Chicano people. And to that I say, si se pudo, si se puede. And if we can just chant to make sure people are reminded as to the power that is happening here. So when I say si se, you say puede. Si se puede! Si se